Hi, everyone, and welcome to our post-launch playtest webinar. Really excited to have you here, and thank you so much for joining. I'm Dana Publicover. I'm the head of marketing here at PlaytestCloud. And first things first, I would really love to kick things off in the chat. So find the chat box, and if you're comfortable sharing, I'd like you to answer two questions for me. First thing is, what's your role? That will help us know if we're getting too technical or maybe not technical enough. And then secondly, where you're joining us from, city, region, country, state, whatever you're comfortable sharing. So I would say, hi, Dana, marketing from Hamburg. Awesome. And while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and kick things off here. So PlaytestCloud, if you're not familiar with us, we are the player insights platform supporting game studios in the quest to make games players love. We've made research easy and sped things up so researchers, marketers, developers, designers, and more get the player insights they need to make smart and data-driven decisions. You can order a playtest on our platform 24/7. You can choose your exact target audience from our panel of 1 million players, and you'll receive your results within a few days. Joining me today for this webinar, very excited to be here with you, is Ugo Bui-Xuan. He is the Director of Research here at PlaytestCloud. He's worked on hundreds of game titles ranging from AAA to indie across PC, console, and mobile. And listen to this list of studios he's worked with. It's really impressive. So he's got Gameloft, he's got EA, he's got Sega, Sony, Zynga, Ubisoft, Lego, Disney, Apple, Netflix, the list goes on and on. But basically, if you've heard of them, he's worked with them, which is so cool. The other cool thing about Ugo, I mean, not only because I get to work with him, but he is a PlaytestCloud former client. And he requested so many features and was really instrumental in helping us shape the product into something that researchers can really benefit from. So Ugo, thanks for joining me, and we're really happy that you're here.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dana.
Hi. Okay, so back to the chat here. If you've never used our platform before, go ahead and type a 1 in the chat. And also, now that we know how to use the chat, if you have a question for Ugo or if something's not clear when we're going through it, go ahead and add it. There's a Q&A tab in the chat, and we will talk for about 30 minutes and then get to your questions there. Gianna from the sales team is also joining us today. She'll be moderating the chat and making sure that if you have a question, it gets answered. Cool. So Ugo, I guess let's start at the beginning. So post-launch playtesting, that's what we're here to talk about today. How are you defining a live or a post-launched game?
Yes, good question. I guess if we talk about mobile free-to-play, classic mobile free-to-play, launch starts at soft launch, which is a launch in a select number of countries. You soft launch for a few months. You fix some stuff, you fix the balancing and stuff like that. Then you do your global launch, and then you start working on your live ops, right? So I would say post-launch testing and research would start from soft launch. For more premium games, like classic PC console that you just buy once, well, launch is launch. So when you buy the box, then anything happening after that would be post-launch testing, I guess.
That makes sense. So what can you learn from playtesting a game after it's already been launched? Because I think most playtesting probably happens before the launch, right?
Yeah, I mean, some clients I've worked with actually test way more after for some reason. There's lots of different sides. I think there's lots of things you can learn post-launch. There's lots of different areas you can explore more and you can improve. Usually the most common one would be retention. So, especially during soft launch and then after, you're very focused on improving your early retention, D1, D3, D7, and also the longer term, like 30 days retention, stuff like that. Of course, you want to increase your monetization, and conducting research and testing at this stage helps a lot. You want to just, know your strengths and weaknesses so you can build your live ops operations around them. You want to keep an eye on your competitors. You want to better understand your players. So, at launch, you're going to have lots of fresh, new, real players joining, and they don't always fit what you had in mind. So you want to explore this.
Hmm.
And one last would be using all of this knowledge, especially the better understanding the players and the space and the market to actually refine your marketing and UA, user acquisition strategy, because the more you know, sorry, about your users and about your strengths, the better you can tailor your marketing.
Okay, so to recap for those of us who just joined and also those who were listening along, so what can you learn from a game that's already launched? Ugo, you said improve the
Everything.
day one, everything, improve the
Retention,
retention.
retention, monetization, improving on your strengths and fixing your weaknesses. You can use this for marketing. Yeah. And just better understanding your players in general.
Yeah. How likely is it, or how often do you see this happen, where the players that are actually playing and buying the game are different than what maybe the game's target audience was? Is that common?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's super common, but I know that some of the most successful games ever definitely didn't plan for the end users to be these end users. For instance, Fortnite and Minecraft were not designed for kids, right?
Yeah. And yet my kids spend hours on them every single day.
Exactly,
Sorry
but
to
it was
admit
not
that.
designed for kids, right? So when they launched, they found out that okay, they have this whole new target that they need to take into account for future, future updates, future content, and they need to take them into account, tailor some of the new content for them, maybe refine the onboarding, maybe tweak the monetization because you don't monetize kids the same way you would adults. There's lots of things you need to take into account. And so, of course, these are only two examples.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot can happen between the start of a project at conception stage and then, 2, 3 years later, when you actually launch, the market could be completely different. The users may have changed. So
Yeah.
it's definitely worth it.
Awesome. Are there types of studios that regularly playtest post launch? Are there trends in those studios, and maybe some who tend not to?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, I would assume from my experience, what I've seen is, it's definitely something that is more common for free-to-play games, game as a service, probably mobile, but also, there's more and more games as a service on PC console as well. But it's definitely more a thing for these types of games because they need to constantly update and push new content, and the market. I mean, the competitor space is really strong, so they need to keep up to date with everything that's happening as well. So definitely these types of games. And yeah, that's kind of it. I would say post-launch is common to everyone that does post-launch. Like, this, it's really the key phase where you're going to refine lots of aspects with your game. And then post-launch is probably less. I mean, after the global launch is probably less common. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in talking to the teams across PlaytestCloud, we found that there are a lot of common objections to not playtesting after launch. And from what I have on my list, a lot of people have plenty of reviews already. They've already got feedback. They've got a Discord community or Reddit reviews, star ratings, and things like that. So we've already got community feedback. That's one objection. We already have real metrics, real data coming in from the usage. We're just focusing on new content now anyway. And then can't test realistic churn with paid playtesters. And then we've already got a long list to fix and all the new things we're learning from the launch, and we don't need to add any more. So maybe we could address these one by one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, these are very common. It's a long list, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at the list, there's many reasons not to playtest.
It sounds like some good reasons, honestly.
Yeah, no, they're all fair and good reasons. I think I have a few counterpoints. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I've dealt with this feedback every day. It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I think it's not like, I mean, it makes sense. But it's actually not that simple. So let's go back to maybe the first
So community feedback,
objection.
we already
Yes,
have, yeah.
community feedback. So this one's very easy. Of course, you're launching your game, you're getting tons of star rating on the store, tons of community feedback from your Discord and Reddit and whatever. And this is great. You get the pulse of the community. You probably see, you see them loving some stuff and complaining about lots of other stuff. My point would be, this is great, but it doesn't show the full picture. First of all, not everyone goes on Discord and Reddit. I don't, for instance, and I play lots of games. And it's like Amazon reviews or like restaurant reviews. It's always kind of a specific type of people that goes and gives these reviews, and they're not representative of the full player base, right? So the most vocal don't represent everyone. And also sometimes the feedback is just not really, I mean, it can be biased, or it can not actually show the whole picture of like what the actual issue is. So it's always better to tie the feedback and the complaints to actual gameplay to really see what's happening, what they're talking about. And sometimes they don't really interpret what's happening in the right way. So I think it's better to get this, data in a controlled condition to really get something that is more relevant and reliable as a feedback. So that would be the first one.
And I guess
sorry.
If something is coming through in the reviews, if you're hearing kind of the same thing over and over again, that might give you an idea of where you should test or what you should test, right?
Yeah, also, I mean, yeah, definitely this is useful to then go and do actual research. I would not stop there. I wouldn't just use the community feedback, take it at face value, and that's it. You want to dig more. Then you mentioned real metrics, and it's true. You're launching your game, you've got actual real players playing, you've got the real metrics. Most of the clients that I talk to every day actually come to me because they've got all these super cool metrics and they have no idea what it means, and they always come back with, okay, this and this is happening, we see this with the metrics, but we don't understand why. So we need actually the qualitative data to just better understand what's happening and then target it and fix it. So the faceless quantitative metrics don't always show the full picture as well. You need more to better understand what's happening. I guess then the common objections are, we pushed really hard to get this game out of the door and launch it. First we're tired, and now we're already focusing on fixing everything that we missed, pushing new content. We're just super busy, and so we don't really have time to just investigate anything and just improve.
That sounds really valid to me. I can imagine.
Yeah, for sure. And I think yes, I mean, depending on the size of your team and how you organize, for sure, this is a challenge. I think it's something you need to plan from the get-go. It's not like you should not launch and then the day after, like getting all of this data and not understanding everything and then thinking, oh, what do we do? I think it's, you need to plan for this like research time in your production roadmap, so you actually have time to investigate and then fix. It is challenging. It takes it takes a lot to actually make this into your production roadmap and having all the teams align on this, but I think there's lots of value. And I think actually getting some objective, kind of a bird's eye view, point of view on like what's happening will help you actually prioritize all the fixes and stuff that you need to do. Because once your game is live, there's so many things that go wrong. There's a community feedback, shouting in your ear, and you need to actually cool down and kind of just prioritize what you need to fix first. And I think getting this objective point of view will just help with that.
That sounds massively stressful. I'm not gonna lie.
It's the magic of making games, right? It's cool, but it's also stressful sometimes.
Yeah. And then what about not being able to test churn with paid players?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say usually you would try to predict churn points before launch. That's usually better, so you don't have any bad surprise at launch, even if it's soft launch. Like the more you prepare and plan in advance, and the more you anticipate the problematic churn points, the better. But of course, sometimes at launch you've got some churn points. I think playtesting, you're paying the players to actually play, right? And yes, it had some bias because they won't churn. They actually pay to play through these churn points. And I think it's super valuable because, again, it gives you the full picture. Most of the live data that you're getting, people actually stop playing. So you don't know what's happening after. You don't know if there's just one very problematic point at some point, and then past this, the experience is just great. Or if like the same problem can repeat over and over again, or some different problem. So this will give you the better picture because you actually have these players play through the first hours of the game or more, and so you see like the ratings go up and down depending on what's happening. You've got a clearer view. And I think the other thing is people would explain to you, they will tell you, oh, I would stop playing at this point because I'm not having a good time. I actually want to stop. They cannot stop because they pay to actually go through it. But it gives you a better idea of what's happening. Like, why would they churn? Is it not fun anymore? Is it boring? Are they just stuck because they can't do something that they want to do? They don't know about a feature that is hidden somewhere in a menu. There's plenty of reasons why they would churn, and so this allows you to better understand what's happening.
So is that really common where the player will say, "Oh, I would totally just stop playing at this point"?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
The players, at least, in the playtesting I do, like I always try and first get quality players, people that are serious about it, that kind of know the process, know the value that they're bringing. We brief them about like honesty, like they need to be really honest. Like they're not paid to tell us what we want to hear. We actually want them to not pull any punches and like actually show us what's wrong with the game. So yeah, definitely. I mean, players are passionate. Gamers are passionate people, right? If they're having lots of fun, they will tell you. If they're hating the game, they will tell you too. So yeah, definitely.
I have a quick yes or no question for you. Have you ever seen playtest results where every single player just enjoyed the game, no notes, great game, no comment, perfect game?
I mean, it can happen, but it's never perfect because even if everyone says, "Oh, it's great, I love it, there's so much potential," blah blah blah, then probably if you actually look at the behavior and the videos, any designer from the team or anyone from the team that knows the game will probably still spot some issues, still spot some stuff that are not supposed to happen. So there's always stuff to fix. It's never perfect.
It's kind of depressing, honestly.
Oh, it's exciting.
The more I hear about this, the less I think I would like to make a game. Okay, so how much playtesting is enough playtesting?
There's never enough, I would say. And I mean, playtesting, I guess has become an umbrella kind of word. But there's not. I mean, I usually make a distinction between user research and playtesting. Playtesting is really putting the game in the hands of the players and looking at what happens. You can do it on small sample and look more at the behavior and the videos. Or you can do it with much bigger sample and look more at surveys and ratings and stuff like that. But there's a whole lot of other tools. You can interview people. You can test, Figma and UI wireframes and stuff like that. You can test concepts. I mean, not everything is a play test per se. And yeah, post-launch, there's so many things you can do that we're probably going to discuss after. But yeah, I mean, if you've got a dedicated user research team, I don't know any dedicated user research team that has time on their hands. Usually they're so busy all the time because there's so much stuff to do.
Right. Not like marketers who have all the time.
Yeah,
we have the easiest job. So I know you can't probably mention names because I know you've worked with a lot of very, very big studios, but if you could maybe tell us a story about a post-launch playtest you've seen, and maybe something that happened that was interesting.
So I've got a few examples of stuff that are, done every day in the industry. I guess the first one would be, we don't really think about this, but some games are around for a very long time, and so even like I have started working on games that were out for like 4 or 5 years already. And after 4 or 5 years post-launch, lots have happened, right? The market has changed. The players might have changed. The game has gotten lots of updates, so it has kind of become kind of a Frankenstein monster with so much stuff. And so the onboarding and the FTUE, the first time user experience, don't really match anymore to like what the game has become. And so these games would actually redo their onboarding almost every year or maybe every couple of years, because they've got these fresh new players, and when they get to the game, they're so confused because there's so much to do. And so we would do lots of testing and research to actually just remake the onboarding every couple of years. This is very common for games, live games as a service. Another one would be the change of audience. So, I already mentioned the Fortnite and Minecraft example. You might launch your game and your audience has changed, or you didn't expect it to be so successful with a segment that you didn't plan for. And so you want to first understand your new audience. You want to talk to them. You want to maybe watch them play. You want to understand better, what they like and what they don't like and the challenges. Kids don't read. Kids don't play the same way that adults do. So you need to kind of plan for that. Then I guess something very common would be new content. So again, you're launching your game and you're planning season after season. You have these big updates every 2 or 3 months. And you need to actually choose, okay, what are we going to build? What do our competitors do that is really cool? And now that our players actually expect from us, so you need to do the research, and then you need to draw some concepts, and then you need to select which one you're going to go for, and you need to predict the one that will be actually successful, because you don't want to be, you don't want to spend 6 months building something that is going to be a flop. So it's essentially a new beginning. Like, it's essentially just remaking games from scratch, right? So all the methods from before you're going to reuse. And finally, maybe another one would be monetization. So, monetization of a game can change. New standards emerge. For instance, 5, 6 years ago, there was no battle pass, no season pass, and now it's everywhere. And so it's something that you need to build into your game, and like, you cannot just slap it on top of the game. You need to plan for it. You need to make it easy to understand to your existing players. You need to make it appealing. So there's lots of things that you can research and test for that.
I think you started to mention methods a little bit when you were talking about those. So I would love to know, as an expert, are there methods that you would recommend for post-launch playtests, or are there some that are better than others for that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like I said, it's kind of a new beginning, so it's almost like all the methods. But let me maybe share my screen real quick, and I can show you some roadmaps, because Dana, I'm a fan of roadmaps.
You love a roadmap.
All sorts of roadmaps. So let's look at some roadmaps real quick. If I can share my screen, it should work. Cool. Can you see my screen? Yes.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So this is a very simplified and probably common roadmap. At the top, you've got all the stages or phase of production of a game. I guess live service game because soft launch. Real quick, what you want to do is very early on, you want to validate that your concept is appealing, your core pillars, your mechanics, your art, your theme, your story. You want it to be super appealing for your target. Then you start building prototype and actually start building the game, and you want to make sure that it's playable and intuitive, and that there's no pain points and blockers. And once you've got something fairly polished, then you would probably want to test the fun factor. Is it actually fun? Do people engage with it? Are they having fun? And so that would be appreciation testing. And then as production progresses and you've got more content, you want to test the fun on a longer time frame, on a longer scale. And so that would be some kind of engagement testing or longitudinal testing. This is very simplified, but that's kind of it. I guess you can break down the appeal testing into a few actual methods. You can do some concept testing, specific on concept, but also it's a very good time to talk to your players, do player interviews, do player surveys to really get a good sense of your player segmentation, the market, what do they like, what are they expecting, this kind of stuff that you need to do early on. Then usability, appreciation, and engagement, longitudinal playtesting, I discussed already, and you kind of reach the launch, right? Global launch. So then at global launch, I would again say it's kind of a reset. So it's good to kind of talk to your players again, make sure they're still the same or not, kind of survey again to just get a pulse of the market again, that kind of stuff. And then what? So then there's a whole live ops phase where you need to build new content, you need to fix all the things that you've been sweeping under the rug for so long. So for me, it kind of actually looks like this. So post-launch testing would be these 3 phases, like I said before, soft launch or early access for premium games, global launch, and then live ops. And there's actually lots of things you can do there. During soft launch, you want to finish putting finishing touches of usability for your FTUE and onboarding. You want to make sure your game has a strong retention, so you want to do longer term testing and just cover all these churn points and try to fix them one by one, while fixing the balancing of the economy, balancing of the fighting system, whatever. You want to keep talking to your players just to better understand who they are. You want to survey the bigger numbers. And then once the frenzy of the launch, the actual global launch is passed, then you need to think of, okay, what's next? And so it's back to square one. You've got all these ideas for new modes, new time-limited events, new content, new characters. First, you need to conceptualize them, you need to actually think of them and make some concepts. Then you need to prioritize what you're going to do. So you need to check what resonates best with your player base. And then you need to actually make it. And so it's back to square one. You need to make sure that it's usable. You need to make sure that it's fun, etc., etc. So it's kind of a never-ending cycle.
Yeah, so it seems like once you get that global launch out of the way and you go into that live ops section, it looks like you're kind of just starting the whole process again.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like divided in little chunks. You're gonna do new characters, maybe a new story, new modes, and each one of these need to be appealing, need to be usable, need to be fun on the short term and on the long term.
Awesome. Okay, so those are the methods that are good for post-launch, but are there methods that would be terrible for post-launch playtesting?
I don't think. I guess there are some common mistakes that can happen sometimes. When I talk to developers who just launch a game and they actually want to test, they know it's important and they want to do it, but sometimes they don't really approach it the right way. I think there are a few common themes that we see, all the time. First, usually it's based on community feedback, and maybe they give too much importance to the community feedback, so they kind of they already pick the direction they want to go, and they need kind of a step back to just have a clearer look at the bigger picture. I think the very first mistake that they would do would be no clear focus. Like, oh, we want to know everything all at once, but with only one test and one methodology, and it doesn't work that way. And so, the scope might be too broad, so you actually don't get really reliable data. It's all mushy and it's not really focused. I think that's really one point. Like, you need to select, okay, we are going to focus first on refining TUE because we see many people churning super early in the 5-10 minutes of the game, so we need to fix that first, right, before tackling much longer term thing like monetization or like late game balancing, for example. So you really need to pick your battles and pick the right methodology for it. That would be the most common mistake. I think another one would be picking the wrong audience or not really knowing who to test with. Maybe they haven't done the research, maybe they don't really know who their players are, and they're just going to say, okay, let's just test the game with people. Our game is for everyone. We target everyone, so just have everyone play. And it doesn't really work like that. You can make a game for everyone that everyone plays, but when it comes to research, there's still some rules to follow. You need some representative sample size per target. So it's something you need to kind of give a bit of thought. And you need your representative sample size, depending on what you want to do. And yeah, I guess the final one would be focusing on the wrong thing. Like, everyone, especially games as a service, they want to make money, of course. That's how you pay your developers. That's how you pay new content. So monetization is extremely important. But most of the time, there's lots of low-hanging fruit that you want to tackle first. All the early churn points, all the little things that don't work well. Maybe your social features were kind of deprioritized because you needed to ship the game, and so this would actually have an impact. And so there's lots of things you need to actually explore to later tackle monetization, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I have one more kind of a beefy question, but after this, I'd love to open up the floor and start answering some of the questions. I see that the Q&A is starting to stack up. If you've thought of a question up to this point that Ugo could answer, go ahead and fill that in, and we will start that right after this one. So here we go. What research questions can be answered by post-launch playtesting? This is a big one.
Yeah, I needed my water for that.
Got your old branding.
With the old branding,
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's try and divide it by phase, because I think the focus kind of changed. So when you're at soft launch, you want to make sure that your onboarding and FTUE are strong, right? So can players understand what the game's about? Can they play properly? Like, all the basic stuff needs to be really good. So that would be some of the questions you want to do. Then how does the kind of later game looks like? 5 hours plus, like, try and fix all the churn points, all the balancing issues or blockers that occur, and that will make your players churn and never come back. So you need to fix these. And also, I guess, soft launch is very important for everything balancing. So economy balancing on your game, monetization balancing, difficulty balancing, pacing of rewards and new missions and whatever. Like, this is the big focus at this stage. Then you've got global launch. Again, who's actually really playing? Who are players? Like, you need to talk to them. And yeah, it's not only community. Like I said, community is not representative of your player base. It's important, but it's not the full picture. So you need to talk to other players. And then, what do we prioritize? We've got some stuff happening. Like, what do we do next? I think is one big question that doing more research and testing can help with. And finally, of course, monetization might not be the day one priority at launch, but top execs and stuff will come knock at your door asking about this because of course it's important. So the more you do the groundwork, the better you can tackle this question. What works, what doesn't, what's appealing in our monetization system impacts, what is satisfactory, or like maybe people spend money once on something but they're not happy about it, so they don't come back, right? So that's not something you want. Or maybe your store is just not usable enough. Maybe your store is confusing. Maybe your season pass is really hard to understand. I'm always, even if it's my job, I'm always confused and lost at season pass. I don't know what's free. I don't know what's paid. I don't know what I need to do. So there's always things you can refine with this. So that was global launch, right? And then there's like longer term live ops. I guess the number one question is, okay, what do we do? Like, what new contents and modes and events and stuff we should build? What's missing, and what are competitor doing better than us? Then after a couple of years, probably you want to start looking at your FTUE again. Do we do FTUE rework? It's a lot of work, but it's probably necessary. Then you've got all the monetization question again that I mentioned. Maybe some new standard has arisen. Again, season pass are kind of a new. They're not new anymore, but like they used to be new. So you need to adapt. Subscription also were not really something before. And then something that I really like actually, and I've not mentioned until now, is like, okay, we've got these players. Some of them have been engaged for months now, sometimes years. I have done some testing with people who had been playing the same game for like over 5 years every day, and it's crazy. And so you actually want to find out more about these players, like,
yeah, that's a commitment.
oh yeah, and why? What do you play so much? Like, what do you like so much about the game? What's your routine? Like, what do you actually do every day when you log in? And do you play one big hour because it's I don't know, a shooter that you're playing with your friends every day, or maybe it's a mobile game with like you play 10 times in the same day in very short sessions. And knowing the routine, knowing what they do first, what they do last, what they don't do with them when they don't have the time, also just give you a better picture of what's happening and what you should put your efforts on. And finally, I've been talking a lot about live games, right? Premium games are still a thing. I play premium games all the time, and it is probably trickiest to test post-launch because like you got your game out of the door, you're already thinking of the next projects and stuff, but I think there's so much you can learn from the game that you just released, right? So it's final, it's bug-free kind of, and you want to have these players, you want to see players play the actual final experience and really learn from it, like what works and what do we should we reuse for the next one or just build upon what still doesn't work, and like, okay, let's forget about it for the next one. What are player expectations for the next one? There's lots of things you can learn still with this.
Awesome. Yeah, I think thinking about like playing the same game every day, I think we all aspire to create something that has an obligation as strong as Duolingo. Like you're out to dinner and they're like, "Excuse me, I have to do my Spanish homework really quick." Amazing. Yeah, I'm jealous of their marketing team. Cool. So let's move into answering some of the questions. I think we've got some great ones in here. So I'm just going to read one out. So you advised earlier the importance to anticipate the post-launch of a game. Do you recommend talking with the teams on implementing in-game tools to gather feedback, example, in-game short surveys, etc.? If so, would you have some advice on that?
Let me look at the question. Oh yeah, definitely. If you've got access to the team and you've got enough, you've built the relationship and you've got enough buy-in for them to actually build stuff for you that, they know the value, they know it's going to be helpful later, so they want to put some time and effort to actually help you do your job better, and like in-game survey tools and in-game surveys and whatnot. Yes, definitely. I think that's great. Do I have any advice? Depends, not really. I mean, my advice would be, building a game is so hard, and building a game is many teams, sometimes siloed, sometimes it's one big team. But like, you need to, as a researcher, if you're a researcher, you need to build this relationship with the game designers and the producers and everyone on the team, really. If you're not, if you're on the design side or on the producing side, you need to understand that user research is here to help you, and that it's a whole big team trying to build something great and fun and be successful. And so I truly believe that there is lots of value and impact in good research. And so, yeah, I mean, it is so useful to be able to have in-game surveys, for example. So definitely do that. And I think someone in the chat also mentioned, a churn button, like having people say, okay, I'm done, I'm fed up, I just want to churn, bye-bye, and maybe quickly explain why. That would be great, because it's definitely it's sometimes very hard to solve. Like, it's actually hard to reach out to people who have stopped playing and ask them why. Like, it's not easy. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I just want to speak for the marketers for a second, because I know you all work with them, and the value of player insights and feedback through some of these playtests could really benefit the marketing, the sales team, anything like that. So I think being able to share those results with bigger teams makes it more accessible, because everybody can benefit from that. That's my gift to your marketers. Okay, so you mentioned competitors a couple of times. So I would find it valuable to see how our game stands versus near and wide competitors. Would that be possible to see in the future? Like, your game rates better than X% on this benchmarked question. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. It is interesting and it's tricky, but it's feasible. I guess it depends on where you start and how you do it. But I mean, I'm an advocate for iterative testing. I think you should start as early as possible and do it as long and as late as possible. So you can benchmark your own game against your own game, right? How it evolves over time and how the ratings go up or down on a number of items, like graphics, game mechanics, story, pacing, balancing. Like, if you start early and you test regularly, you can track the evolution of all of the things. And sometimes there's a big change in the game, you're changing whatever the story or like a key mechanic, and you can actually see the impact. And you can do the same thing with competitors. So, of course, no one has the time and budget to testing 3 to 5 competitors every couple of years or every couple of months, even. Like, I mean, it's too much work, but at least doing it once to kind of getting a baseline of like your 1, 2, 3 key competitors are doing on these many items, I think is really useful. So I hope that answers the question. The key would be to keep things consistent. So I would, design questions and scales, like in my surveys, consistently, so I can actually compare stuff. You don't want to compare a 5-point scale with a 7-point scale and like an open-ended question with a closed-ended. So try and decide on the format. It might not be perfect, but at least stick with it, because it's just easier to compare.
So, follow-up question: is it easy to order a playtest for a competitor's game, like a game you don't own?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the platform, if you're using PlaytestCloud, for sure. If the game has been released, it's on the store, right? Be it mobile or PC, we can do that. And yeah, so it's very easy. Of course, premium paid games is a tiny bit trickier, because you need to actually buy the game for the players, but there's always some ways of doing this. But yeah, I mean, it's something we see a lot. I think it's something that is super useful, and it's useful at all stages as well. Like, if you're super early during the concept stage, you want to see real players playing other similar games to kind of see what's happening, what works super well, and you need to borrow, and what really don't work well, and maybe it's something you want to kind of keep away from, or it's something that you really think you can add a twist on it and make it better. And so there's an opportunity to actually have a USP, a unique selling point. And so the more you know about your competitors, like the better for success, I think.
That's true in everything, I think. There was another question here, but I saw it just disappeared. So hopefully your question was answered. I'm sure it was an amazing one. So I'm going to just pause here for just one quick second, give someone a chance if there's another question. And while you do that, I'm going to give you just a little more information here. So any suggestions for webinar topics, anything you'd like us to get someone in to talk about or to go in a deep dive on, or anything we can do better with webinars. This is Ugo and mine's first webinar together in this format, and any feedback would help us make it better for next time. So you can email us at hello@PlaytestCloud. I'm going to drop that email just in case you can't remember it right here in the chat. And I've also got, all right, yes. So we've relaunched our emails recently. We're really focusing more on how to help people get more out of the platform and how to support better research. So that's the content that we're working on with this newsletter. So it's also where you'll find out about all the other events, the training sessions, etc., that are also coming up. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, it's about once a month. We won't spam you. There's the link to sign up. And also, if you come up with a question that you weren't able to think of, it hits you in the shower later tonight as you're processing this webinar. That's probably how you spend your free time, right? You can always email Ugo directly. That's his email address in the chat. Otherwise, I just want to thank you all so much for coming. And Ugo, thank you again so much for the information. I love that I can come into this with a beginner's mindset, and I don't come from this industry. So it's really cool to learn about how things work and how things can be better. So really, really interesting. Gianna, thanks for moderating, and just, thanks for coming, and we will see you soon. Hugo, any final thoughts to share?
Thanks everyone for coming and listening to us. Thanks Dana for hosting. Thanks everyone, and see you soon.
Cool. All right. Bye everyone.
Bye.